groundwork for dissemination of feminist theory dovetailed with the American civil rights movement of this period. As we know, American civil rights movement was a movement for equality among races, for equal rights for races, and it combined with equal right for genders. So there is a kind of dovetailing of two freedom struggles, one for equality of races, the other equality of genders. So this is characteristics of second wave feminism. Now let's look at the third wave feminism. The third wave feminism, which begins something in early 1990s till present, it resists the perceived essentialist, overgeneralized, oversimplified ideologies and a wide heterosexual middle class focus of second wave feminism. Third wave feminism borrows from post-structural and contemporary gender and race theories to expand on marginalized populations' experiences. So what does third wave feminism do? Is in many ways start questioning itself. When women start questioning themselves, their own theories of equality. That is how third wave feminism begins. And one of the critiques that third wave feminism launches is that the whole idea of woman seems to be an essentialist idea, seems to be largely Eurocentric idea that only white middle class woman is woman, seems to be kind of implicit in second wave theory of feminism. So third wave feminism critiques second wave feminism for its essentialist ideas, the overgeneralized phases. The third wave feminism also borrows from post-structural and contemporary gender and race theories. What third wave feminism seeks to do is it seeks to expand what we understand by woman. It's no longer male, it's no longer white, it's no longer European woman, it's no longer heterosexual woman, it's no longer middle class woman, but even blacks, even lesbians, even other women from so-called third world, women from developing societies, women from Africa, all over the world. And the argument is that the experiences and the struggles of a woman in slums of Bombay is different from a struggle of a woman in Los Angeles, white woman in Los Angeles. So a location of various women in terms of their genders, in terms of their caste, in terms of their class was taken into account in the third wave feminism. So third wave feminism is the contemporary approach to the question of gender. Writers like Alice Walker work to reconcile it, that is third wave feminism, with the concerns of the black community and the survival and wholeness of her people, men and women both, and for promotion of dialogue and community, as well as valorization of women and of all varieties of work women perform. So Alice Walker seems to call for more inclusive definition of the category of woman. It's no longer just one white heterosexual woman, but blacks, women from working class, women from tribal areas, women in slums, women in ghettos, everywhere, women all over the world, and the necessity of considering them as equals. So in third wave feminism, what seems to be surfacing is the struggle for equality among various kinds of women. So while second wave and the first wave feminism seem to focus on equality and rights of women as against men, third wave feminism seems also to focus on rights of equalities and inequalities among women themselves. So when we think of women, it's not a monolithical or a kind of essential category, but a very diversified, plural, and also hierarchic category. Consider that in our Indian context, women of particular community identified as higher caste and women of community considered as lower caste will have a different set of issues to deal with in their day to day life. And hence, the theory or approach which works for one may not work for other. So, while both of them are trying to combat patriarchy, they also seem to be combating other forms of discrimination like caste or region. So very often in Indian context, a Dalit woman is supposed to be marginalized in a multiple ways. She is exploited, oppressed not just because she belongs to the gender, feminine gender, but also because she belongs to a caste which is considered inferior. So it's double oppression that many women in India have to undergo. So when feminism as a theory and outlook is to be adopted in places like India, then we have to actually engage with the social reality that we face, and that is what third wave feminism seems to be doing. It takes into account the local struggles which women have to go on daily basis rather than engage in a kind of universal idea of woman. They are more interested in local and micro struggles that women have to undergo. So these are the three important waves of feminist criticism. That is what we have seen. We could have gone into greater detail about it, but it would be out of place right now, and it also we don't have that much time to discuss them. So let us go on to look at some of the important critics and theorists associated with feminist thought. And we have mentioned some of them in passing. So let us look at them. This is a very interesting slide. You might come across many people, many women who say, I am not a feminist. I just believe that women should have same rights as men. But the point when you say that women should have same rights as men, congratulations, you are a feminist. This is just for a side. Let's look at some of the important feminists. Mary Wollstonecraft has been called the first feminist or mother of feminism. Her book-length essay on women's rights, especially women's education, a vindication of rights of a woman, which we mentioned as belonging to the first wave of feminism, is a classic of feminist thought, and it's a must read for anyone who wants to understand the history of feminism. So Mary Wollstonecraft is one of the most important feminists, early feminists belonging to first wave of feminism. An important precursor in a feminist criticism was Virginia Woolf, who, in addition to her fiction, wrote a Room of One's Own that we have discussed, we have seen, and numerous other essays on women authors and on cultural, economic, and educational disabilities within what she called a patriarchal society. The term patriarchal society was coined by Virginia Woolf, that have hindered or prevented women from realizing their productive and creative possibilities. Virginia Woolf, as we know, is a very famous novelist and a story writer, and some of her most important works are novels like To the Lighthouse, Mrs. Dalloway, Orlando. These are some of very important novels by Virginia Woolf. So apart from being one of the most important writers of 20th century, Virginia Woolf is also a major figure in feminist thinking in the beginning of 20th century. Let's look at the next one. A much more radical critical mode was launched in France by Simone de Beauvoir. The Second Sex in 1949 was a wide-ranging critique of cultural identification of women as merely the negative subject or other to male, man as dominating subject who is assumed to represent humanity in general. The book dealt also with great collective myths of women in the works of many male writers. This is a very renowned and very pervasive mode of feminist critique, where feminist critics engage in looking at how woman is considered to be other. She is othered in male discourse. She is considered to be something which is not man, negative of man, and how she is marginalized. The second sex also deals with many myths of women, and this also is very significant because feminism also seeks to uncover these myths, or rather stereotypical thinking or stereotypical ideas about women. So second sex can be called a very contemporary way of looking at literature, in that which it seeks to expose how woman is made into other in male tradition of literature. At the same time, how stereotypes are deeply embedded, the stereotypes created by patriarchy, deeply embedded in literary texts. So these are the great myths which Simone de Beauvoir seeks to expose patriarchy. So this is one of the most important books of feminist theory in the 20th century. This is Simone de Beauvoir. She also attacked the claim that femininity is an eternal essence of female. She also, for first time, actually challenges the kind of collapse that had existed between gender and sex. So the very patriarchal way of looking at the collapse or mix up between gender and sex is for first time openly challenged by Simone Beauvoir, saying that gender is something that is acquired, something that is it's not something that you are born with. So gender for Simone Beauvoir is something that comes through social discourses. Hence she says that one is not born but rather becomes a woman. The last and very important critic that we are going to look at is Judith Butler. In her two influential books, she opposed the notion that a feminist movement requires the concept of feminine identity. That is, there exist essential factors that define woman as woman. Instead, she elaborates the view that fundamental features which define gender are social and cultural productions that produce illusionary effects of being natural. This is Judith Butler. Butler proposes that we consider gender as a performative. That is, to be masculine or feminine or homosexual is not something that one is essentially, but something that is performed, something that is acted out. It's a pre-established condition that one repeatedly enacts. So one doesn't so Judith Butler is answering actually the question which Simone Beauvoir is actually posing. Simone Beauvoir is saying that one is not born a woman but one becomes a woman, and Butler is explaining exactly how one becomes man or woman. She says that one becomes man or woman by actually performing the script that is written by the culture and society. Women have to behave in particular way. Men are supposed to behave in particular way. Men and women are supposed to think and feel and exhibit themselves in particular way, and these ways are scripted by societies in their language, and these scripts are to be acted out by individuals who are born into that society. So what happens here is that person who is born of male gender, of male sex, may perform the script of female, right, and a feminine script. As a result, you may have men who are feminine in their behavior. So biologically they may be male, but their gender might be feminine, right? So had there been a natural kind of relation between sex and gender, this kind of mismatch would not have happened. But this mismatch happens because gender and sex are not naturally connected as cause and effect. Rather, they are part of the script, the drama that a particular culture provides, and all of us are acting on those scripts. So, when a woman, how does woman become woman or man become man? According to Butler, is by repeatedly enacting, repeatedly performing, repeatedly behaving to a script written by society and culture, which conforms to the idea of masculinity and femininity in that culture. So there is nothing essential about masculine or feminine, but these are merely roles which culture has created, and anybody can play those roles. A person belonging to a different biological category, say for example female, can perform a role of man. So this is what happens according to Butler, that there are not two but many genders: transvestites, gays, queers, drags, and so on, transgenders. So all these multiple genders are because of the performative category that the gender is. And that is why in the beginning I said that patriarchy is something which actually excludes or marginalizes, oppresses other genders apart from masculine. And you can see that feminist criticism is today a complex, rich, challenging body of thought, and it has had a profound impact on philosophical discourse, on culture, on society, on literature, and everything that constitutes our civilization. To sum up, feminist theory is an extension of feminism into theoretical or philosophical discourses. It aims to understand the nature of gender inequality. It examines women's social roles, experiences, interests, and feminist politics in a variety of fields such as anthropology, sociology, communication, psychoanalysis, economics, literature, education, and philosophy. So, this was a very brief discussion on feminism. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you found it useful. So I really want to thank all of you who are listening to me for actually giving time and listening, paying attention to what I was saying. I also want to thank Baizak Sandar